I begin every episode of Checkout Time with a lot of enthusiasm. And my enthusiasm is a mix of excitement, inspiration, motivation, and a pinch of creativity. Excitement lies in the exploration of the world around us, and exploration really is a true essence of human nature. Hi, my name is Damian Urbańczyk, and in this episode of Checkout Time, we're going to be touring around southwestern part of Poland. Do you know the exact date of creating of this castle?
1292, this is the date we recognize as the completion of the construction of this castle. Of course, at that time it was a typical medieval defensive castle, like most structures of that era. It was built by Baroque I the Strict from Świdnica-Jawor branch of the Piast dynasty. He called it the key to Silesia.
I won't be lying when I say that I entered this castle 5 minutes ago. I'm sitting in the Maximilian Hall and I already feel very important.
Just walking up the imperial stairs here to the first floor and entering the most beautiful room in Książ Castle, where we are now, the Maximilian Hall, makes people instantly behave much better.
One of the privileges of being the host of Checkout Time is visiting historical places and being able to enter spaces which are inaccessible for other guests. Like right now, I can feel like Prince Hans Heinrich XV, who initiated the rebuilding of the castle at the beginning of the 20th century. He turned a former terrace, which was above the Maximilian Hall, into this gold room. So I can walk around admiring his work, not caring about the scolding looks given to me by those terracotta figures. Step by step, I enter the world of rich and powerful, and I absolutely immerse in it. Right now, I'm entering the prince's office, so I can basically feel like at home. And I feel very powerful and almighty, and a bit tired, so be gone. At one period, in the 15th century, Hochbergs entered the stage.
It was the year 1509, the beginning of the 16th century, when the first Hochberg arrived at the castle, receiving it as a pledged fief. This marked the start of a 400-year-long presence of that family at Książ Castle. He essentially began the later expansion of the castle. The times were somewhat more peaceful, at least for a while, compared to the Middle Ages, so the focus shifted to remodeling the castle into a palatial residence. However, the original medieval structure remained inside, which explains why we still call it Książ Castle and not Książ Palace.
Then suddenly, the 18th century knocks on the door and the Baroque reconstruction of this place begins.
It wasn't so much a reconstruction as it was a full Baroque expansion, because the castle then reached a size of 300 rooms. That was truly a lot and still is, Not many people can boast having 300 rooms.
I remember when my mum asked me a question. She said, "We no longer build such splendid palaces. Why is that?" And I said, "Mum, it's called sanity and reason." Do you want me to paint a better picture? This castle's area is 11,000 square meters. Quite spacious for a family of 5, isn't it? Well, of course, they didn't live there here on their own. They had 500 workers being with them all the time. But they, of course, lived on the 4th floor or outside of the castle. So, once again, 11,000 square meters. It could fit 300 single-family houses here. So, dear Mum, it is called sanity and reason, also known as poverty. The castle has been changed throughout centuries, but when the Second World War came, it had new owners and the changes continued.
Hitler wanted to turn Książ Castle into his main headquarters. The Hochbergs sold the castle to the Third Reich in exchange for the cancellation of their tax debts to the German state. And indeed, massive construction began, though it would be more accurate to call it the castle's demolition. Everything that didn't fit the Third Reich style was stripped away, including what made the castle beautiful, the stucco work gilding. It was a barbaric reconstruction.
Although it is hard to believe, we are currently under the courtyard of the spectacular Książ Castle. Let me shed some light on this place. In 1942, Hitler decided to build his new headquarters, and the Operation Riese, which is a German word for giant, began. The Nazis built tunnels that were able to fit a train, and the project would continue, but fortunately, the war ended. If after being exposed to objects, artwork or phenomena of great beauty, you can feel rapid heartbeat, can't grasp air or feel like fainting, then you may be experiencing a Stendhal syndrome. And this is what I believe I'm experiencing right now after a visit in this gorgeous castle. Can you imagine living here? Well, unfortunately, it is not possible, so I chose the next best thing, which is Hotel Książ. The story of the entire property of Książ Castle is very complex, sometimes funny and delightful, sometimes tragic and craving for being remembered. So it's good being a guest here to be able to learn about this history and live it. Do we know the date when these buildings that we are currently in were established?
The part we're in now, the northern outbuilding, was only constructed at the beginning of the 18th century, commissioned by Count Konrad Ernst Maximilian Hochberg. When Książ Castle was originally built, at the end of the 13th century, it consisted of the upper castle, meaning the main structure with the Maximilian Hall, and the lower castle, whose central point was the present-day gatehouse building. The northern tower of the gatehouse was originally a medieval tower. In the 17th century, during the 30 Years' War, we know that the Hochberg family maintained 35 musketeers at the castle. These musketeers were, among other things, responsible for guarding the gate.
Takimi rzeczami, oczywiście jak pilnowanie przejścia przez bramę,
I'm sitting now in the gate building and admiring its interiors. It is an entry to the entire Książ estate, and it used to be a library housing almost 60,000 books. It was a kingdom of Karl Endemann, a librarian and a teacher in the times where this property was owned by the princely family of Hochberg-Pless. And right now, you can savor different tastes and dishes here. These outbuildings right now house Książ Hotel, and in the northern outbanks there used to be stables.
When these outbuildings were constructed in the 18th century, the northern outbuilding we're in now served as the princely stables. In the 19th century, the Hochbergs built new stables on the eastern side, and at the beginning of the 20th century, the building of the present-day stallion stud was built, and the stables were relocated there. As a result, the stables that were once in this outbuilding were converted into rooms for the castle staff.
Które znajdowały się w tej oficynie, gdzie jesteśmy, zaadoptowano na pomieszczenia dla służby zamkowej.
We are approximately 200 meters from Książ Castle. And it's worth remembering that the castle itself, with its history, influenced and still influences the area around it. And its impact is visible in this książęca restaurant, not only in the menu, but also in the photos on the walls created by Louis Ardouin, who used to be a master chef here from 1909 till 1926. This is what I call history consumption. Bon appétit. I believe that the southern outbuilding was also a place where Princess Daisy used to live.
Prince Hans Heinrich XV Hochberg, husband of Princess Daisy, expanded Książ Castle into its current form. He divorced Daisy after 31 years of marriage. After the divorce, Princess Daisy initially left Książ Castle. She returned in 1935. And between 1935 and 1940, she lived in the southern outbuilding.
Księżna Daisy mieszkała faktycznie w oficynie południowej.
Princess Daisy was the wife of Prince Hans Heinrich XV. She was famous for her charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and great beauty. The couple got married on the 8th of December 1891, and shortly after they moved to Książ. Here they entertained many important guests, such as Tsar Nicholas I, Emperor Joseph Franz, the Greek Queen Margaret, but also Churchill and many aristocratic Polish families. After 52 years of living in Książ, Princess was expelled by the Nazis, and she died in a nearby villa in 1943. So I think it is justified to have a suite bearing her name in this hotel. What were the most important guests staying in these buildings?
There were some guests in the history of Książ Castle who left a particularly notable mark. And one of them was John Quincy Adams, the future President of the United States. So, without a doubt, the presence of John Quincy Adams, the US ambassador to the Kingdom of Prussia at the time, is evidence that the castle has always attracted attention. Another exceptional guest was Winston Churchill, though this was before he became Prime Minister. He visited Książ Castle twice before World War I, as he was related to Princess Daisy.
All these names, like Prince Bolko or Princess Daisy, of all the people who created this place, made my visit here possible. And this visit made me realize about their existence and heritage. When tourists come to go sightseeing around the castle, they must be very excited. But are they thrilled as well staying, for example, in this hotel, knowing that these are historical spaces?
Often, when I finish a tour with tourists, I notice that instead of heading straight to their cars and driving home, many of them go into the hotel rooms and stay the night. Whether they actually sleep, I have my doubts. After a nighttime tour, the adrenaline is so high that falling asleep seems rather difficult.
For me, Książ Castle is a perfect case of perseverance and striving, because both war and peace influenced its appearance and function. It is like the history of Poland in a nutshell. And now I'm going to show you another place that came into existence thanks to war and peace. Necessity is the mother of invention. This international proverb would be best to describe the Church of Peace in Świdnica, the largest wooden temple in Europe, created after the 30 Years' War as a result of Westphalian Treaty. The war fought between the Catholics and the Protestants between 1618 and 1648 was one of the most destructive conflicts in this part of Europe, and yet it resulted in this amazing place.
Ferdinand III, the emperor who granted permission to build 3 churches, did so under the influence of the Swedish king, who essentially forced him into a compromise with the Protestants. Since all Protestant churches had been taken from them during the 30 Years' War, at least some had to be returned. The emperor said, "No, I won't agree to that. But I will agree to one thing. In each of the hereditary Silesian duchies, I will allow the construction of one church." Great joy followed. But the emperor added, "Hold on, that's not all. These churches must be built according to certain rules." What rules? They could not be built within the city walls, only outside of them. Why? The idea was to treat the Lutheran population as second-class citizens, but more importantly, to ensure that the churches were left without protection. Another point, building materials. Don't think you'll build another brick or stone church like the ones you used to have. The only permitted materials were clay, straw, sand, and wood. That's all? No. The church could not have a bell tower. No tower, no bells. All right, time to start building. Hold on, the construction cannot take longer than 1 year. Faced with such extreme conditions, the Lutherans began preparing for the construction.
Never judge a book by its cover, because although this building from the outside may look like a big barn or an impressive granary, inside it hides an unbelievable treasure. Built from perishable materials like wood or clay, it was supposed to be here only for a short period of time, and it lasted centuries.
I think the emperor must be turning in his grave now, because he believed that with such restrictive building conditions, the church would fall apart within 30 to 40 years at most. And yet, as we know, since 2001 the church has been on the UNESCO World Heritage List.
How to collect so much wood? Where do you get money for it?
Inside the church is one of the largest family loges, the Hochberg family loge. The Protestant branch of this family sponsored 2,000 oak trees. A total of 3,000 oaks were needed to build it, so they covered 2/3 of the wood.
I told you that Książ Castle influenced the area around it. In this case, castle represented by the Hochberg's family, whose generosity helped to create this beautiful church. And their benevolence will always be commemorated in this Hochberg's lodge. How many people can fit here?
It might be hard to believe, but the Peace Church in Świdnica is the largest wooden church in Europe. And it can accommodate, and this is no joke, 7,500 people.
How come?
About 3,000 seated and 4,500 standing. John Quincy Adams, ambassador of the United States, visited Lower Silesia and wrote in his journals, which we have, that he was in a small Lower Silesian town called Świdnica, where there is this extraordinary peace church. Świdnica had a population of 7,000, and at the service he attended, there were 5,000 people.
Na nabożeństwie, na którym było 5,000 ludzi.
So what did it mean back then in the 17th century to erect this church here, and what does it mean today?
Looking at this place today with the benefit of hindsight, not only was it an incredible technical challenge, but most of all, it was a testimony to the faith of those people. Despite difficulties, despite problems, despite the obstacles put in our way, as Lutherans we are here and we want to show something, to do something, as this is our testimony of being rooted in this land.
This episode of Checkout Time proved to me once again that the world around me is the greatest source of excitement, but also the greatest source of natural beauty, intellectual interest, and everything in life that makes this life worth living. See you next time.